Welcome everyone. I'm so excited to bring you all today together on World Environment Day to really think and share and listen and grow around the Laudato Si, such an amazing, wonderful encyclical that brings us all together around our common home and helps us think about not only what are my responsibilities and what is my role and what are we all here sharing and growing and how can we best work towards conserving and honoring our common home, but in such an amazing environment where we have our schools from Brazil and Argentina and Kenya and the Philippines and India and Canada here, all 7 countries all together today having this conversation. And I know it is midnight, I believe, in the Philippines, or at least 11, yes, midnight. And so you amazing students who are joining from home, sharing their time with us when they really should be sleeping on a school night, but we'll let them, we'll welcome them. And I know it's similarly a crazy hour in India, and I'm so happy that you've been able to join and share your time with us today. I want to welcome our speakers, Father Paul and Monica from Development and Peace, and then our student speakers as well. We have 2 here from the city in Edmonton that are joining from where I am, and then we have another one of our schools in Brazil is going to share on what they're doing, their Laudato Si in action, and then our students, of course, from the Philippines. So I would like to start with a land acknowledgement. I acknowledge that I'm joining from Treaty 6 territory, which is the ancestral traditional land of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in Alberta, and is a common home to everyone. Now, for our friends who are joining internationally, in Canada, we publicly acknowledge treaty land at the beginning of our events with this desire to reach out and to the Indigenous peoples of Canada in reconciliation and friendship. Through an acknowledgement that the territory that they live on and share with non-Indigenous peoples, we would call settlers, is their ancestral land. So it's in Laudato Si, Pope Francis says, we must recognize that the Indigenous peoples' land is not a commodity, but a gift from the Creator, from their ancestors who rest there, a sacred space with which they need to interact if they're to maintain their identities and values. So treaty land, treaties are a contract or a covenant that are entered between 2 parties. We think of it as 2 sovereign and equal parties. And in Canada and in Alberta, that's not always been the case. That's not been the history, and that we haven't really recognized that equality and so the ability of those sovereign nations to be recognized as such. And so we really do, through our reconciliation process, are coming to this new sacred space, an agreement of peace and friendship and witnessing, where we're looking at our relationship and respect for each other, marked with honesty and a kindness and a sharing and a strength. And it really, to me, resonates with what we're going to be talking about today. And when we look at the Laudato Si and we see these essential dimensions around, looking at who you are and being honest about relationship to commodities, about relationship to responding to the poor, relationship of responding to the needs of the earth. And I think it helps us both reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, but reconciliation with our relationship with all peoples really helps us look at these difficult questions. And we need to think about not just looking at those and responding to those, but acting on them too. And so the exciting event today is not just thinking about Laudato Si, but how do we act on it in our daily lives and bring it to life, make it a real, because it can be academic and it can feel out there and something that we read, but actually I hope that you and our speakers today will really start to understand that we can make this real. It can be a part of who we are and how we act in our daily lives. And I'm so excited to bring us all together to do just that. So before we get started, I wanted to preface this that it's not just a sit and listen sort of thing. In your classrooms, it's that we just have it as a poll in the Zoom, but you're going to have to yell out different answers to our polls to make sure that you're paying attention and that seeing what you know so far about this amazing thing. So that's upcoming. But first, I want to acknowledge all of our amazing schools that either are participating here live in the Zoom room, or that are joining us on our live stream on YouTube. And so we have amazing schools from across Canada. The Canadians are listed there first. And then we have our international schools. We have Brazil joining us live, Argentina joining us live, India and Kenya. And then we have our friends from Nigeria and Trinidad and Egypt who are joining us later on the live stream. So it's just so exciting to have you all here today. So quick overview, we're doing this, and then we're going to Father Paul, and then we're going to touch over on Monica and development and peace. And then we're going to really spend some time hearing from students and what are they doing in their schools or in their communities to really embody this idea. And then we're going to say goodbye. So I hope that it's going to be an inspiring and amazing time together. So I'm going to launch our first poll here just so we can get a practice on it. And I expect Father Paul to get this answer right. So in 2015, when Laudato Si was released, how many languages was it originally published in? What do we think in here? Was it 4? Was it 6? Was it 8? Was it 10? I was going to say there's no wrong answer, but there are wrong answers. There's 3 wrong answers to be precise and 1 right one. But what do you think? How many languages? I was going to put 2, but I thought everyone would know that that's wrong because these inspiring encyclicals need to go out to as many as possible. We got some 6. 6 is winning right now at 56%. 10 has 11%. 8's coming in strong, but everyone knows that 4 is a dupe. No one's getting that one. They all know that it has to be bigger. All right. They're coming in. Okay, we're going to end the poll. And I don't know if you guys can see the answer. Oh, share results. That's how we do it. It is 50% say the right answer, 8. 8 languages it was released in 2015. Father Paul, did you get it right?
No. I said 10.
That's amazing. See, but it shows that we can all keep learning, even though Father Paul is embedded within this work on a daily basis. Even he has learned something today during our event. And that, I think, is a great segue over. Father Paul, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I would love to have you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and a little bit about Laudato Si.
Sure, thank you. First of all, thank you everyone for having me, and thank you for the invitation to be with you. This is my first time ever on an international call like this, and thank you to all of you who are and already your Monday is done already. You're heading into Tuesday. We're just starting. It's only 10 after 10 in the morning here. But thank you very much for having me. I've been a priest for 21 years and a priest here in the Archdiocese of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I work in the Archbishop's office now. I've been a pastor and other things like that. So now I'm here, and this is a great opportunity for me really to learn from you. So I don't want to take up too much of your time because I'm really looking forward to this. And the information that Sarah has sent me over the last few days has really tweaked my interest in what you're doing locally, really to take Pope Francis's call to action to heart. And especially today on World Environment Day. I was reading the Vatican News earlier, and I know the Holy Father had a lot of meetings today with a lot of different groups to sort of mark World Environment Day. This is so close to his heart, and really, I think now for the entire world. So just as I say that, just to go into some of the topics from Laudato Si, this is really something that has been addressed to all people and all people of the world. And I think it's calling each of us to a connectedness, I think, and maybe that's a good word to use, connectedness, because we're looking at our common home, we're looking at the earth. And really this document, this encyclical letter, as we call it, is teaching us about our own responsibility to protect the environment, to look for a good, sustainable future. And so just as we start, any Vatican document, like an encyclical letter, it always gets its name from the first few words. And so I think, if you're writing a book, you think, what are the first words going to be? Because it's going to be known for those words forever. So I always wonder, when Pope Francis was first writing this encyclical letter, he used the words Laudato Si, which to translate into English means praise be to you. And so this document now, which is about 8 years old, will always be known for that. Praise be to you. And it's looking really at a need for us as inhabitants of the earth. And it also reminds us of everything in the world that is interconnected, that we all have an obligation to care for the earth, to care for every creature that is on the earth. And so I think we have to look at that as our common home, that the earth is just not a place where we live, but it's shared by every living being. And do we recognize that? I think about that every time I see a mosquito, and I usually want to slap them and kill them because they're going to bite me. But in any case, everything we do, we have to look at how we are interconnected. We can see so many things that are happening in our world right now. We think of the environmental crisis. This is something that hits every one of us. I live in a province where oil and gas is really a contributor to the economy. But yet, how is it that we will move forward, not only today, but other generations as well? And so I think that's really something that Pope Francis wants to highlight is the environmental crisis around the world, the harm that is happening, and how we can look toward that, not only today, but for future generations. You are young people, and even beyond our generations, how is it that we can help that? Pope Francis is also stressing an integral ecology, and that looks at the environment, it looks at society, our cultures, it looks at the economy, how all of those, really, our systems are so integrated. And we see that in diverse ways around the globe, and especially even where you are from today joining us. How do we show respect, human dignity to one another? How do we show sustainability in a good way that promotes the common good? And then I think we always have to have care for creation. Here in Canada, and we probably celebrate that very early in September. We have our day of care for creation. And often that's when our school year begins here in Canada. It's very early in September. But I know that our schools here in Edmonton and around the province, around the country, this is really something that they have taken on. Even as the local Catholic Church here, we always celebrate this day. We always use some of the documents that come out from the Holy See and how we can really use those in our parishes and in our schools with our stakeholders to really celebrate that day, really a day of stewardship. Because we know that we are stewards of the earth, that we are entrusted with its care. And I think we have to be responsible in how we do that. Even for myself, the way I live, I think things have changed. The way I recycle, all of those things, just in one small aspect of that, how I just live my life. I think I have to always think about those things in such a real way. And then I think we continue to look at something that we all see, climate change. And so Laudato Si addresses climate change as really one of the most pressing issues of our time. That's urging us as individuals, as communities, as local groups, but also governments to take action. So we need to reduce our greenhouse gases. We need to look for renewable energy resources. We need to look for ways to adopt sustainable lifestyles. Even here in Canada, how we do that continually has to change, evolve. And I think we're challenged always by the words of this encyclical and by others to say, what do we need to do? Because all of us are being affected by climate change. Doesn't matter where we are in the world. And so we always know that Pope Francis, he always has a call to action. I think that's the great thing about Pope Francis whenever he writes. He writes and then he calls everyone to an action. And we're seeing that locally here, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you as students are doing around the world. I think it's absolutely marvelous, and I want to hear so much more about that. But I think in so many ways, that call to action is going to propel us forward and say, what can we do to bring about this change? We have to be conscious of that in our own lives. How it is we look at every natural resource that we have. here and all around the world, there's such beauty. How is it that we celebrate that, but how is it that we also protect it and we sustain it? And that means that for each one of us as individuals, we make a difference, but we also make a difference as a community. And we can do that together. And I think we see that happening right here now today. And so I think that our individual aspect, the community engagement that we have, all of those things are so important. And of course, what does that mean? It means that we are advocates. We advocate for the environment. We want to raise awareness. We want to do things that will really literally change the world. And I think that you are doing that. So I think as we look toward how we can continue to protect the earth, the gifts that we have here especially, and how we connect to one another, all of those things are a call to action that Pope Francis calls every person to, every person of goodwill. He always wants us to do that. So again, thank you for having me. And I look so forward to learning from you today and about the initiatives that you are doing in your local communities.
Thanks so much, Father Paul. I really love that interweaving of community and really sort of showcasing that and how today this community of learners is highlighting that and bringing that to the forefront. So thank you so much for that message. Now, I'm going to keep us moving. Monica, would you like to jump on in here now and sort of tell us a bit about development and peace and again, your perspective on Laudato Si and where your organization lies? Wonderful.
I'm just sharing my screen first. And then let me just give me 1 second. Oh. Okay, are you seeing my presentation?
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much again for having me here. I am very, very excited, just as Father Paul just said, to hear from you and to learn from you. And I'm just here today to share a little bit more about Development and Peace Caritas Canada and how we are living the teachings of Laudato Si in our work. So I hope to contribute a little bit with this to the work that you are doing in your own countries and your classrooms. So just before I start, just a little bit about myself. My name is Monica, and I am originally from Colombia. I live in Calgary, and I studied international development here as well. I am married, and I have 2 beautiful daughters, a 3-year-old and a 16-month-old, and I also am expecting a baby son who will be born in September with God's grace. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. And then now about development and peace. So every time I like to explain what we are all about, I like to use this this teaching here, which is give a person a fish and you feed them for a day, teach a person to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. That sounds like a good model of charity, but what development and peace goes a step further and asks us an uncomfortable but important question. Why don't they have fish? So most of the time it's not that they don't have fish, and it certainly isn't that they need us to teach them how to fish. But more often than not, big companies have gone into their countries to take advantage of their land and resources, polluting their water and killing their fish. So that's the distinction between charity and justice. Charity is giving a hungry person a fish, which is a good thing to do. And justice is trying to solve a systemic problem that have taken away their fish. So development and peace doesn't send people from Canada overseas to hand them a fishing rod and say, good luck. But rather, we partner with grassroots organizations in those countries, putting the power into the hands of local communities. And then we are inspired by the richness of Catholic social teaching. So here in the screen, you see a lot of these principles. And we're inspired specifically or more often from the preferential option for the poor and solidarity, as well as, of course, scriptures and encyclicals like Laudato Si. So all of this inspires our work and pushes in the direction that is guided by the Holy Spirit, and then we work together to achieve our mission, which is to support people in the global South through our humanitarian aid and long-term partnerships, as well as to educate our Canadian population here about the root causes of injustices. So when we're tackling a social justice issue, we see it through the lens of our faith, and we discern how to respond to it. So we use this model. It's called the See, Judge, Act, which help us to think deeply and respond courageously and out of love for our brothers and sisters. So I would like to give you like a glimpse of what this process looks like for us, and how the church teachings and letters from Pope Francis, like the Laudato Si, inspire our work. So you might have learned in this time where you're learning about all of Laudato Si is that it is the first letter written by a pope that addresses climate change, and that, as Father Paul was saying, it's not calling it only Catholics but the entire planet to do something about it. So one of the main gifts of Laudato Si is that it brings the spiritual perspectives. It brings the language of faith to this issue. It invites us to see and realize the effects of the environmental crisis, especially on the poorest of the poor. It challenges us not to become indifferent to the pains of our brothers and sisters and the environment, and guides us to reflect based on God's love for us what our response should be. So Development and Peace uses this image of the tree to express the meaning of Catholic social teaching, and how through this See, Judge, Act process, we bear the fruit of justice in the world. So at Development and Peace, we both acknowledge the scientific and theological backgrounds of an issue, and we discern how to respond accordingly. Okay, so for some reason it's not okay. Good. So the first step is always to see what the issue is again. So that's the C portion. So in terms of like the climate crisis that we're seeing today, we would start at the soil. So the soil represents the context in which we live, the economic, social, ecological, and humanitarian crisis of our times. And Catholic social teaching answers the questions of how should we respond to what we see happening in the world around us. In the soil of the tree, you will, for example, identify all the concerns that you see arising from climate change in the world, or in the places where you're at. In Laudato Si, Pope Francis urges us to listen to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Sadly, it is not difficult to think of many examples of these cries. So droughts, flooding, forest fires, polar ice caps melting, severe weather, hunger, loss of biodiversity, loss of livelihoods, communities destroyed, and so on. And sadly, as Pope Francis points it out on his letter, all of these issues that we see arising from environmental challenges affect the poorest of the poor the most. And yet they're often the ones protecting our environment the most, and the ones risking their lives for it. So what it should be all of us changing our ways to take care of our common home. Every day, more and more activists across the global South are criminalized and threatened for protecting Mother Earth, for defending human rights, and for refusing to bow down to corporate interests. This is just one of the issues, one of the examples we see happening due to like this environmental crisis. At the end of the day, our goal, as Pope Francis is saying in the encyclical, is to become painfully aware, to dare to turn what is happening to the world into our own personal suffering, and thus to discover what each of us can do about it. So this takes us to the judge component of our discernment process. So after we reflect, or after we've seen all of that, we become painfully aware of what is happening in the world, then we go and deeply analyze this issue through the lens of our faith. So this is represented in the trunk of the tree, where that's where everything the tree is taking is filtered, right? And so in this context, we're filtering everything through those eyes of our faith, through the teachings of the church. So then this is when we do this, we can ask questions like, how can these principles guide us? How can this encyclical inspire our work? How can it shape our work? What is it saying to us? If I were in this situation of, for example, being criminalized for defending my land, what would I hope people would do? So we ask all these questions, and then and here are some other questions, like what stories about Jesus comes to mind? What would Jesus do? Things like that. And when we see all of this, then we're very prepared, and we're in the right track to know how to bring real solutions to this problem. So I'm sure you recognize this from what Sarah shared with me that you're working on. I'm sure you've some of you or most of you would have seen these videos. This is just an example of how you can of the resources that are out there from about Laudato Si, to learn about it and to learn the lessons of it. So you can find it in YouTube if you haven't seen it. So I truly recommend this video just to learn a little bit more about Laudato Si. But here are some important lessons just to complement and reiterate what Father Paul was already teaching us. So that humans are part of creation, not separate from it. So there is a strong link between the social and ecological justice. There is the intrinsic value of each creature. Overconsumption is a primary cause of climate change. We need a radical change of culture, role of ecological education, and the role of spirituality. All of these things we're being called to reflect upon with Pope Francis's letter. So with all of this in mind, then we go into the act portion of this process, and the act stage is where we are called to take to action to better realize all those principles, all those lessons that we're learning from Laudato Si, for example. So here is our examples from Development and Peace's work, and this is how we take all of this reflection and we put it into action. So in Development and Peace, we are the Canadian social justice organization of the Catholic Church. So we operate in all of our parishes across the country. So one of the main ways that we raise awareness about social justice issues is through campaigns, through annual campaigns. And it is not a surprise that many of our campaigns are on environmental and ecological justice because of how important and urgent this theme is everywhere in the world, and obviously here in Canada as well. So these are just some of the campaigns we've had over the years. So Create a Climate of Change, or For Our Common Home, and People and Planet First. In these campaigns, I skipped one, sorry. In these campaigns, one of our primary goals is to bring the voices of those who are most affected to the decision-making process. So again, I mentioned how Catholic social teaching, especially the preferential option for the poor, that's how we are really putting into action this principle, like bringing those voices of the people who are needing the most our attention, right? So so here is an example from a community in Cambodia affected by deforestation. So the land and forest are the very basis to the way of life of indigenous communities in Cambodia. They rely on the forest for fruits, vegetables, honey, wild herbs for medicine, and many more non-timber products. Yet deforestation is occurring legally and illegally, with permits or without, for wood harvesting and from building mining access roads, all of which encroach on their land. So what Development and Peace does here is we partner with grassroots organizations who are precisely combating this from happening and are looking at the root issue of this injustice and making long-term changes. So they're the leaders of this change, which is also reflecting Catholic social teaching and the teachings of Laudato Si to bring the people who are facing these challenges to the decision-making table. So just for concrete examples of how our partners are taking action, they're trained community leaders on how to protect their land. They support them through the process of securing their land and assist them in documenting illegal activities and reporting it to authorities so these things don't continue to happen. Here is a picture of a community holding their land title, which protects them from companies coming into their communities and destroying them without any consequences. So besides highlighting the work of our partners, we also, of course, always ask ourselves, like, what can we do besides supporting the work of Development and Peace? Because when you support organizations like Development and Peace, and I'm sure in each of your countries, you will find an organization like this. And very likely you will find a Caritas organization, so like another one like Development and Peace, that is doing this. When you support it, you're supporting organizations like the one I just described. But also, what can we do personally? So we invite Canadians to think on this, and we invite them to bring about changes, not only to support changes externally, but also bring about changes internally. So Pope Francis actually in Laudato Si calls us for an ecological conversion. He's asking us to experience this, where we seek to live in harmony with nature rather than dominated. So the Laudato Si movement, which is a movement that is obviously working in all of this work of Pope Francis, defines ecological conversion as the transformation of hearts and minds towards greater love of God, each other, and creation. It is a process of acknowledging our contribution to the social and ecological crisis and acting in ways that nurture communion, healing, and renewing our common home. This, Pope Francis remarks, begins by changing our lifestyles so as to ensure that all benefit equally from the Earth's resources, including future generations. So if based on these lessons of Laudato Si, what can we do? That's what we should be asking. Each of us has to change our ways, make the decisions to live more simply, to choose the greener alternatives, but most of all, to listen to each other, to not be indifferent and realize our interconnectedness that Father Paul and Pope Francis is telling us to reflect on. So to truly take to heart that our actions affect our neighbors and that overall well-being of our planet. We need to change our community to support one another in the search for a better goal that is not defined by economic means, but by human integral development. And to challenge our governments and people in power to make real systemic changes to the ways that we're seeing this issue be aggravated. So at Development and Peace, we always, again, like besides highlighting the work of our partners, we also have a concrete action that we can take here in Canada to change this issue that we see in the world. So many times we have petitions. So we ask Canadians to sign petitions that go to the government so that we don't see things like Canadian companies, for example, going into communities and destroying them for economic interest and profit. So just an example of one of the petitions that we've asked is people to sign in Canada. It's one called the Mandatory Human Rights Environmental Due Diligence. So this is basically asking the Canadian government to hold all Canadian companies accountable for the actions that they have on the lands of other people. So it's preventing violations to human rights. And we are asking the government that this is like a legally binding document that they have to sign. So what that means is that there are consequences if companies don't abide by this. So this is an example of what we've done before. This is a campaign that started in 2022, I believe. And this is an example of how the petition looked like. So we distributed these petitions through our parishes, through volunteers, through different groups across Canada, and that's part of my job, basically. So to animate, to facilitate these things happening, and work with volunteers to spread the word and get many signatures, so we get our voices heard, and we bring those voices from our partners in the decisions that are made here in Canada. And then besides this, we have obviously always personal practices that we encourage. So always, it's the pray factor. It's always a part of our work. And then things like refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, that I'm sure you've heard lots and lots through all of this work. Reducing meat consumption, the use of things, so fast fashion, expectation of individual personal use, ownership, the thinking that we always have, like things are only ours, but when in reality they're not. Everything is a gift, and we should be able to share it and protect it, and then also reevaluate our thinking about needs and versus wants, and simplicity and gratitude. Simple things like giving thanks before and after meals, thinking about where clothes are coming from, just really having that change of heart that Pope Francis is calling us to do, to have. And then these are examples of things that you could implement in your schools, but I'm more interested in hearing actually from what you are doing, but this is some other ideas for you to implement. So garbage-free days, plastic-free school, like having like a plastic-free school, composting, community gardening, create an environment of joyful simplicity, host movie nights, and raise awareness on climate justice for people who maybe are not really aware of all these things. These are some examples of some documentaries that you could show in your schools, the true cost, and there is something in the water. I think these are available in YouTube, so they're easy to access. And then also join movements like ours, like Development and Peace. And as I was saying, I'm sure there is a Caritas organization in your countries as well, or something that is very similar. So joining other people that are like-minded and working together also, it's a very amazing tool. So after we do all of that, our actions should be bearing fruit. So, and we're asked this question: so how do we impact those who we sought to help? How were we changed through the process? So when you're looking for solutions and ways to add to or help this issue, then you should be asking like all these questions, and making sure that fruit is actually impacting that soil. So remember how the soil was the issues that we see from climate change. So the fruit from your actions should be changing that soil. And so we ask these questions: what does the soil look like now, and how did the context change by our actions? And then new things can happen. And so and then you can ask like how long-term seeds were planted and how can we nurture them, right? How can we continue this change and maintain it and not go back to the same ways, basically. So these are all the questions that we ask and that we reflect upon to know if the actions that we're taking are truly making a difference. And we're always learning, always growing, always listening to each other to work tirelessly for that better world that we all want to see and leave for future generations and for yourselves, because you're so young. And so it's a very important thing to think about and always reflect and know that with Jesus, our message and actions and lifestyle should always create an environment of hope. Knowing that, like Pope Francis says, human beings, while capable of the worst, are also capable of rising above themselves, choosing again what is good and making a new start. Remember and never forget that you have the ability and the courage to create hope where there appears to be only waste and exclusion. With your hands, you know how to forge the dignity of the person. And who said that? Pope Francis, of course. So with that, I end my presentation. And I am very looking forward again to hear from you and hear how you are working in your schools. Thank you again for having me, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Monica, for sharing all that. And I really like the way that you tied in all those SDGs. So the Sustainable Development Goals, that we're not just, this isn't just an environmental, this wasn't written by the Pope in a silo to just talk about the environment. It was really meant to resonate with the Sustainable Development Goals. And it was written for those who are in our Decarbonize program. So Father Paul and Monica, we have this ongoing project where we bring schools from around the world together to work together for months around the environment. And so some of our schools today are younger grades who are in that program. They're coming up into Decarbonize soon in the next couple of years. But as a part of that, paper was written right before COP21 in Paris. And so we all have probably heard of the Paris Agreement. And that really binds nations around the world to a set of standards and a set of targets. And so this was, I think, very much intentionally written as a statement of faith contribution and a sustainable goal contribution to that document, that it needed to not just be about science. We really need to think of environmental action in terms of how are we looking at poverty? How are we looking at hunger? How are we looking at cities and the role of people, but as a creature amongst all creatures? Anyways, thank you so much for sharing with us and helping us learn a bit more. Now, our next poll question is coming up here, guys. And if you're paying attention, it will be no problem, because it was directly in one of the slides. Let's see what were your thoughts? So which of these was not a goal of the Laudato Si? Responsive cry to the poor, response to the cry of progress, or response to the cry of the earth? Well, they're coming in fast and furious. I'm not sure it was as tricky as I thought. All right, yeah, they're coming in. So I remember in one of Monica's slides, it listed two of these three as something that the Laudato Si calls us to respond to. Maybe I'm going to roll over here to Father Paul. I'm going to make a drum sound on I don't know if you guys heard it, on my table. Father Paul, which one is it?
I think it's not the progress. Number 2.
Yes, that's right.
Whew, I got one right. Okay.
Not ask us to respond to the cry of progress. In fact, it does warn us that we can't keep looking at progress as something to attain and strive for, that we need to take that step back and look at how maybe progress and how we define progress and success is inhibiting our ability to connect with the poor and connect with the earth and all those sorts of things. Thank you, Father Paul. All right, we're going to roll over now to our students and hear all the amazing things that they're doing in their schools to respond to Laudato Si. We're going to invite our friends from Brazil, Beatriz and Otavio, to share first, and then we're going to move to our friends in Edmonton at St. Vincent. Oh, I see that they're getting ready to go as well. And then we will, okay, so we'll start with those two, and then we'll keep going. So Brazil, love to send it over to you.
Hi, are you guys hearing us?
Hello, guys.
Loud and clear, way to go.
Okay, I'm just going to share our screen. Are you guys seeing it?
Yes, looks great.
Okay. So, World Environment Day 2023, made by Otávio Pierre.
And Beatriz Vasconcelos, that is me.
Yes.
So we're going to share with you the topics that we select to show with you guys. So we choose some topics that we thought that were like the most important and the humanity part of how does the world and the sustainable are together.
Yes, how they interact.
Yes.
And we selected these topics from Laudato Si.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part that we are talking about is from the inclusion of the young population in discussions related to Laudato Si. So in our opinion, young people should be integrated and introduced to the themes and the reality that Laudato Si provides. And for the next year's copy, our school wants to do exactly that, include younger people in this project. Like both of us, we are 13 years old, and we want to call other people of our age or even younger to be part of this project. So we believe that this is extremely important because the sooner these issues are introduced, the more people will want to participate in projects like this. And this will help a lot with the world, how it's going on and everything.
Yes, we want to include the young population in the talks about our environment. So we're going to talk now about how do we include the poor population in how do we can talk with them to talk with us, and we think that for a general change to be made, we have to include all the social groups, and we wants to do a global project and call every single person to participate with us and enjoy the beautiful and wonderful planet that we have to take care. So the conditions that we are living in nowadays have been affecting nature and have been even affected ourselves. And it is so difficult to handle in nowadays, and we think that we should and we have to change it as fast as possible. So a great idea to help this problem would be to attract populations with low financial conditions, so that a large part of the population gets involved, and this will help us to every single person, like I said, getting into this.
Yes, and proving it sustainable.
Mm-hmm. And some ideas that we have to include this population, it is through online engagement and with a simple and accessible material, because the poor population doesn't have social media and a lot of material that some people have. So we need to include this population with some ways that they can join with us. And we want to make an available, simple, and accessible material. And the community training programs that teach practical skills related to sustainability. And we think that if we help them with economic stuffs, they can help us in all our world to be together in this global project. And with this, we can make a a huge difference, and we can help everyone to like be construct a well future to the future generations and make our planet a good place to live. And aren't here just to live, and we have to take care of our planet of Earth.
Project our current home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the third topic that we have selected is the no use of fossil fuels and biodigesters. So our college has been working hard for the reduction of these fossil fuels. This fact is covered in the following passage from paragraph 26 of Laudato Si. It is necessary to replace the use of fossil fuels and to invest in renewable energy sources, and to encourage research and development of more energy efficient technologies. So our college provides service in favor of such replacement. We have biodigesters, that's a modern technology that use organic materials like fruits and everything that wasn't used to produce clean energy, which will be used to heat our school's water. And this is very important because we are not using fossil fuels that are limited in our planet, and it can put in the air like CO2, that is a greenhouse gas. So this helps a lot of the reduction of this gas in our atmosphere.
Yes, with them we can make biogas and help to combat the production of CO2 that is so bad to our planet.
Yes. So these are some ways that we chose from Laudato Si, and we decided to present to you guys.
And we want to say that our schools wants to show us that even the young people, like we both, we can make a difference. And if we are together in this, the difference must be so the best of that we can do.
Yes.
And I think is that.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Thank you so
attention.
much.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna give you a little round of applause. If you guys want to react, you can go to the react button and give little claps and wonderful thumbs up. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. I love that your school is always looking at changing the school. I know there was also a few years ago, 2 of the students in the Decarbonize project did water testing around the school to see how the water, what was impacting the water around you. And I like how your students in your school always think not, I'm sure you have smaller projects, but it's big projects. Like, how can we make an impact with our school? So whether it's solar panels or the biogas or water around your school, these are our buildings make a lot of greenhouse gases and cause a lot of emissions. And so our individual actions like plastic water bottles can make an impact, but our school itself needs to think about how do we change. So thank you so much for sharing. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to our student friend now, joining us from St. Vincent, Emma. We'd love to feature you if you'd like to speak up now.
Hi.
Hello.
So we don't have our slideshows embedded in the camera. So I don't know if you could either highlight our camera view or however it is, but we don't have.
Yeah, we can pin you. No problem.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready, Emma.
Okay. Hi, my name is Emma, and I'm a grade 6 student at St. Vincent Green STEM School. Our school started a greenhouse last year to teach us how to care for plants, grow food, and ultimately care for creation. At first, my teacher asked me to help in our greenhouse. I've done that for a couple months now, and I've become the main person each day. Sometimes different classmates join me. I've been watering our plants such as geraniums, broccolis, strawberries, and there's quite a bit of plants in there, but it doesn't take too long. Sometimes I pull off the dead leaves so they can grow bigger. I liked it and started gardening a bit more at home. I have some seeds on the windowsill, and I have some marigolds and fox seeds, which are different types of flowers. At school, I asked to help more. I've been helping each class with their herb garden, and I go to harvest so the kids can take their plants home. Sometimes I water them too. Back in September for St. Vincent Day, all the students at our school made geranium cuttings. We've grown them all winter. We wanted to use them as part of our social justice activities. So in 2 days, on Wednesday, we're having our first greenhouse sale, so we will be selling the geraniums to families and parents. The money is going to be donated to Dogs with Wings Service Dog Society to help people who need service dogs for autism, seeing eye dogs, and other needs too. It's not that hard to get started on growing plants and food, and the best part is how proud you are to see what you have grown. That's all I have to say for today. So
Wonderful, Emma. That's so great. Now, I want to make sure that all of our schools heard the last part there, that you've been, and I have to start, Emma, when I put out a call to teachers to have a student share on the Laudato Si in action, your principal responded so fast, saying, I have the perfect student who is doing so much to inspire other kids in our school community. And he really wanted to celebrate you and highlight that work that you're doing in your school, because he says you've been championing this project, that other kids come and go, but that you're the champion. So congratulations to you for working so hard to make this come. So Emma in her school is really responsible for growing all these plants, and they're doing a plant sale to raise money for another foundation. And so I just think that's an amazing way of tying sustainability to those other actions towards the sustainable development goals, that working on one, again, it's not a silo. We can work on things and think about the environment and work on environmental projects and help in other areas too at the same time. So congratulations, Emma. That's such an amazing project, and you're doing such great work. I know that your whole school really appreciates what you put in, that you in particular go above and beyond to help your school community. So thank you, Emma, so much. Now we'll have some time, I think, for questions at the end, but we're right near the end already. And so I want to make sure we have time for everyone. So I want to invite our friend, our other friend who's joining from Edmonton, from, St. Patrick, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Hosea, are you online and ready? Did I get it right?
Yes, we are ready to go.
I'm going to spotlight you for everyone. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. So we don't have slides today, but Jose is going to share about what we've been doing at St. Angela.
Thank you.
So we've been doing like the school-wide things, and some things also for like a singular grade, so that every grade can do something. And activities include like the STEM activities we do, and STEM presentation. We also had a STEM presentation about like sustainability, and we learned through it. So we learned about it through videos and games. We also have every class do a schoolyard cleanup to protect the ecosystems in our schoolyard. Our school also created an outdoor classroom. So we use this to have a chance to see God's creation and action, and to learn about divine revelation and creation. Our school gets kids active in taking care of creation by having a gardening club, and us students are responsible for changing their recycling bags. We also had the whole Edmonton school, Edmonton Catholic School Division, STEM schools do a challenge called League for Green Leaders. League for Green Leaders was an online challenge where we learn about our carbon footprints and do our best every day to reduce our carbon footprint. We also reuse things that we have already used, and we also take things that only that we need and have a leaderless lunch day and encourage the students to eat healthy food. And every class learns about ecosystems, and last of all, we learn about social. We learn about justice in social, and why? Because like we have laws about keeping our environment safe. And that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing. You guys are doing a lot. That's awesome. Way to go. So what I really loved, I'm gonna take off the spotlight so you can, what I really loved was that idea of challenges. So how do we make this exciting and engaging and maybe inspire other peoples to meet the work that we're doing? And so I know there's one school who wasn't able to come today, but I was going to share their action in that they did a challenge, recycling challenge of teachers versus students. And so it was, they weighed their recycling bins at the beginning of the month. And then throughout every week, they would weigh them again. And it was whoever was recycling proportionately more, because there's a few less teachers. And so they did it to see who had more waste. So they measured the garbage and the recycling. And then they were trying to see who did a better job at conserving in their school. Was it their teachers or their students? And you will not be surprised to find that it was in fact the students who won the challenge. And it really sent a message that we need to work together, that sometimes kids can be the leaders in a school. And so I really love that. Thank you so much for sharing what your school is up to. All right, and now it is my turn to share on behalf of the Philippines. They've joined today, but their internet in their city is a little wonky today. So they asked me to share their video on their behalf, and I need to actually share the sound as well. That will help. All right, here we go.
A pleasant day to each and every one of us. I am Robert Inico P. Estrellado.
I am Rian Pidas Pabuladeras, and we are here to represent St. Joseph's Academy of Las Piñas City of the Philippines.
Climate change is becoming more and more of a pressing issue with each day passing, and as children of God, we need to take action.
On May 2015, Pope Francis published his second encyclical, Laudato Si. Here, we are called to take swift and unified global action against environmental degradation and global warming.
As said earlier, the Philippines is one of the countries most affected by environmental issues. We have been struggling with mainly 3 environmental issues which seem to deeply affect our country, with waste management being the most severe next to air pollution and sea level rises. Due to poor waste management, land pollution and marine pollution are greatly seen in our country and greatly affects both land and marine life.
Here in St. Joseph's Academy, we have made numerous events and implemented many rules to take part in this mission we have been given.
One of these examples would be our Laudato Si garden. Our dedication encouraging more environmentally friendly lifestyles among all students is demonstrated by our Laudato Si garden, which was designed by our seniors. The efficiency designed area acts as a potent instrument for forming young minds and establishing a strong feeling of responsibility towards the environment, in addition to showcasing the natural beauty of our surroundings.
Another example would be our Trash and Show. It was started to promote sustainability on and off school grounds, where young designers upscale wasted materials into trendy clothing, promoting recycling and waste reduction. We educate attendees about upcycling and repurposing during the show, promoting a mentality shift towards ethical fashion consumption. The event highlights the environmental effect of the fashion industry and enables attendees into incorporating sustainable practices into their daily lives. We hope that by combining creativity and sustainability, we can harmonize with the ideas expressed in the Laudato Si and inspire constructive change in the fashion section.
As representatives of St. Joseph's Academy, we urge action on climate change, inspired by Pope Francis's Laudato Si. All in all, we the young generation shall pave the way for change, so the future generation can live in a green, clean world. That is all, thank you.
Oh, amazing work by the grade 10 class in the Philippines. And they're here. It is 1 a.m. in the Philippines, and they are here to share their stories with us. So thank you so much. Now, I heard about the Trash and Show a few months ago at our last Decarbonize meeting, and it just blew my mind. Trash and Show. I think it's so amazing that we can look at sustainability, and not just in our science classes or our math or our social studies class, but we can think of how does this go into arts? How does this go into foods? How does this go into math class? How does this transcend science and really impact other ways as well? Like to have a trash and show as a part of even your home economics classes, we would call them here, where you're learning how to sew and create, is just, or your arts class is just such an amazing idea. And I loved it. And I want to put on a trash and show in my neighborhood now and for my friends. I think that would be great. But I would hope that today you'll come out of this inspired to maybe take some of these ideas or think about your own community, because we don't know what another community needs. We can only listen. We can only make space for them to tell us their needs and how we can help them. We can't obviously decide how best to address climate change for another group, or another place. But I hope you become inspired by some of these amazing ideas that we've seen today on how both big and small students are making a difference now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to be an old person like me or anyone else on this meeting who's a teacher. You can do it now. And I want to thank Emma and Josia and Beatriz and Octavio and our whole grade 10 team from the Philippines who have joined us, but also those who haven't had a chance to speak. And I know are also doing amazing work that have joined us today from Kenya and from India and from all the other classes that are joining us online on YouTube right now. Thank you so much. Now, we've gone over time. So I want to get my thank you message out before we sort of move into if there's any questions. So if you have to log off, you heard my thank yous, but was there any questions that any of our schools want to ask any of our other schools something? Or Father Paul, before we do that, so you guys think of your questions. I expected maybe a question from Argentina if they're allowed to stay online a little bit longer. What's your response? What do you think about all these amazing projects that are going on, Father Paul? How does that inspire you?
Well, first of all, I think this is amazing. And I'm sorry that you just get a little clap on a screen from me, because just listening to each and every one of you, what you can do, and I know you mentioned this, is you can change the world. And I think that's a great thing. And I think you have got the enthusiasm and you've got the love to do it. So thank you, not only here, but around the world. So thank you to you and your teachers. It's amazing. I know some of our young people here in Edmonton and the schools here, but around the world, thank you, because you've taught me a lot this morning. You've got me really kind of excited in a different way for Laudato Si. So thank you so much.
Amazing, thank you. And Monica, any thoughts as you heard these students present?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just blown away by all your amazing work that everyone is doing here. And I just want to congratulate you and encourage you to keep the amazing work that you're doing. It really warms my heart, and it gets me very excited as well to continue the work that I am doing here, and knowing that there's such amazing work and energy put into all of this outside and in so many countries. I am so grateful to be part of this call, to hear the voices of all of you and to see the work that you're doing. So thank you for letting me be part of it and for sharing all of your amazing stories.
Oh, thanks so much. All right, students, any questions? Our friends in Argentina hadn't had a chance to share yet today, but we're happy to take some questions if they have any, or our friends from India who are online, or Kenya. Any thoughts before we say goodbye? Oh, I see. Oh, I see our friend from Egypt would like to speak. You're welcome to unmute and say something. Or I don't know.
Sarah, my student would like to speak. Ariman.
Sure. Yep. And then
Yes,
looks like
Ariman.
Argentina, there's that her students really love the trash and show, and Okay, India, Usha, did you had a student who wanted to say something?
Yeah, Ariman wanted to speak, I believe. Just put up.
Hello.
Ariman, are you there?
Yes,
Yeah, we can see him.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Ariman from the 9th grade at HPS in India. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been doing this year and what we're about to. It'll be really quick, I'll make it quick. So basically for Environment Day, we had an art competition campaign of sorts where students got together and created paintings and drawings and various other art forms and posters to raise awareness about plastic and its harmful effects on the ocean, the land, and the earth in general. So we also hosted many campaigns in the past year. We rallied in the streets of Hyderabad to raise awareness and educate people about the hazardous effects of climate change and what we can do about it as a society to make it better. So we've also created a website made specially for the COP Club or the Climate Club in HPS, which will be linked to our school website. So anyone who has an interest in doing these sorts of activities can go there, check it out, learn what we're doing, what we've accomplished, and get in contact and hopefully join in with us too. So I've been in charge for developing that website, and it's still in its stages of development, but I'm hoping to get it out soon. So that's some of the things we're doing among others.
Thank you so much, Ariman. Thanks so much for
you.
sharing today. That was wonderful to hear about all those things. And raising awareness is just as important as doing action, so that you're creating a website where people can get more resources and can understand what else they can do. Because it's if you're doing a project and then you find out someone else is doing the exact same project, you could work together and do more. So that's an amazing way to bring people together. Thank you so much. Okay, and I know I said it was last, but the last sharing, we have a friend from the Academy of Sciences in Egypt who has asked to just say one quick thing. I thought I saw her online. Hello. Oh, she just went off. It's tricky. It's tricky, all these international connections, because it is also, I think, 2 a.m. for her as well. All right. So we're going to say goodbye now because we are well over our time. Thank you for your understanding, teachers, and for your patient students. Thank you for everyone who shared today. We're
ترى أنا عايزة أتكلم.
Okay, sorry. If you have to leave, you have to leave. I get it, but I'm so excited to hear from you. Go ahead.
خلاص يا سارة ماشي خلاص انتوا كده خلصتوا الاجتماع انا مش هتكلم.
I think she's going to share in Arabic.
كنت هتكلم عن الأطفال بتوعنا إن إحنا عندنا أطفال صغيرة سنه صغير فإحنا بنحاول نوعيهم بالحفاظ على البيئة إن إحنا مثلا بنعمل مشاريع بالروبوت إزاي نطور ألواح شمسية عشان نقلل انبعاثات الكربون من المحطات اللي هي بتشتغل بالفحم حرق الفحم وبيشتغلوا من هي مثلا إعادة تدوير البلاستيك والزبالة اللي على وش المية بيعملوا مثلا روبوت مكنسة ان احنا نكنس المية دي هنكنس الزبالة من على المية علشان السمك يعيش اللي هو المعنى اللي وصل لهم لانهم اطفال 3 سنين و4 سنين وبنحاول ان احنا نوصل لهم ازاي ان احنا نعمل اعادة تدوير ان احنا نبدأ بمكاننا فاحنا نقدر ننشر ثقافة اعادة التدوير لكل اللي حوالينا ان احنا مثلا من اكاديميتنا نعمل اعاده تدوير ان انت مثلا لا البلاستيك يتحط في سله الورق في سله الاكل في سله نعمل اعاده تدوير لكل حاجه فانت هتعمل ده فانت هتاخد مقابل فده تشجيع ليهم ان هو انا بحاول ان انا اوصل لهم ان احنا نحافظ على البيئه.
Alright.
فبنشتغل على قد ما نقدر ان احنا نخلي فيه توعيه اللي بيبدأ من مكاننا فاحنا هنبدأ بالمكان ده فهينتشر ثقافة إعادة التدوير للي حوالينا.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think there's a lot of people trying to reset the language of the closed captions to Arabic and English, and it got a little confused on what language. But thank you so much for sharing. I can't
you,
wait to hear
Sarah.
more
Thank you.
about that at a later time. I can send an update to everyone with. If you had something you want to share, you can send it to me. I'll email it to everyone. We'll send out a little chat. But thank you so much again, everyone. Happy World Environment Day. Thank you for coming together, learning from each other, thinking about this important encyclical. Today's the day to really, set a goal, make a change. You can do it. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Father Paul. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, all of our friends from Brazil and Argentina and Canada and India and the Philippines and Egypt and everywhere that joined today. Yay! Happy World Environment Day.
Happy
Thank you,
Environment
Sarah.
Day.
Bye,
Yeah.
Sarah. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye.